I'm Patrick Bailey with whiteboardcoder.com. Today is February 10th, 2020, and in this video I'll be doing round 2 of openpyxl with JSON. What I'm trying to do here is I have openpyxl, I have Python on Ubuntu 18.04, and what I want to do is take a JSON file and convert it to an Excel file, but in such a way that I make multiple worksheets with their own data on it. Okay, first some quick links, then we'll get going. So I am using openpyxl, and here's a link to their documentation. And I have this in the show notes too. And there's also, here's a link to some of their usages. And then another very important thing in here that we'll probably use a little bit, but I'm more using JQ, is there's a JSONlint.com where I can take JSON, place it in there, and validate it, which is important in what we're doing, but you can do it in the command line. That's probably what I'll be doing. Other things is, for this particular thing, I have done a blog post on this, so here's a link to this, and I'll put this in the show notes. This is my round 2. And then also in this video, we won't be going over installing openpyxl or getting the basics working, but I have done a video on that. And here's a simple example with openpyxl, create XLS files, video I did earlier. And I'll put a link to that and you can go watch that if you need to. Also, here's another video I did with importing JSON and making an Excel file and back again, but just on one worksheet. So I'm expanding on this video. Let's see what else I have here. And then for this video, I also have some GIST I put out here, and I'll put those in the show notes so you just download and get going off on that, basically. Okay, with that, let me get going. So if I come in here, and let me see, LSB release -a, just to show that I'm on Ubuntu 18.04. Now what I'm going to do is we will start, first of all, we will make a simple JSON file. So I'll come in here and I'll call it, let's see, I'll call it budget.json. And I will cut and paste here what I've got. Boom, just a bunch of JSON. Let me cat it out. So there is my JSON. Now I'll take this as is, just to show that it's valid JSON, and I will put it back into right thing. There we go. Put it in the JSONlint and validate it. So our JSON is good. Another way to do that is using the JQ tool. If you don't have the JQ tool, you can do sudo apt-get install JQ, which I suggest doing. But what I can do from the command line is I can jq.budget.json, and it confirms the file is fine as it outputs it like that. So fantastic, we're good to go. So now let me actually get to making a basic Python script. So let me go over here. And I will call it I create XLS from JSON multiple sheets.py. And what I like to do when I'm programming Python, we'll be doing in Python 3, is just to get something very bare bones basic working and then to build upon that. So I'll say Python 3, and then we'll come down here and I'll do a little cut and paste on my main method. I'll just say print test. Very bare bones basic. And I'll go over here in the same directory here. I'll say change mod user plus execute. Gonna make it executable. And do that. And now I can run it. Now if I run it, I should just return test. Oop, nope, I did something wrong. Perfect, this is why I do it. So let's see. Oh, there we go. No space for the 3. There you go. So I hate trying to, if I have a bug, I want to find it early, right? So iterate and test. So now what we'll do is I've already, like in my other videos, I've already imported the library, so I'm good to go with the openpyxl. So now I'll say import openpyxl, import JSON from openpyxl, import workbook. Workbook. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to make this JSON file. So I'll come down here, and I'll delete this now, and I'll say, okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to get my JSON data in here. So I'll just leave that blank, and I'll say with open, and let's see, we called this budget.json. So we'll open the budget.json file as JSON file. And we'll say JSON data equals JSON.load JSON file. And so now that should bring in our JSON file and basically make it a dictionary as far as Python is concerned. And we should have our JSON data available to do something with. Let me run this again, just make sure nothing broke. Nothing did. Okay, so next thing we'll do is now we'll make a workbook equals workbook. And now this is an openpyxl. So now we've created a workbook. And now, well, let's just do, if you create a workbook, and we'll say wb.save, and we'll call it test.json.xlsx. Boom. Let's see, we'll say save to Excel. So if I just do that simple, that, if I'm thinking correctly, we'll make a file, make a workbook. There won't be anything in it, but it should make it. So if I run it, now I should see there is this test.json.xl file. Now I'm going to go over here, I'm going to pull it, it's actually running on a server, I'm going to pull it in locally and open it. So I'll say secure copy, Ansible, just happens to be the name of the server. I'm not doing anything Ansible-wise for this video. Round 2, and star.xlsx, here, boom. So pull that down, and if I open test JSON, we should get just a blank, it exists, but there's nothing in it. Perfect. Now let's get some stuff in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over our JSON. Now, one fun thing we have to do, which seems a little weird, is because I'm going to read from this JSON, and if I look at, let me go do the JQ here. What I'm intending to do is every single year here, which is an object, 2018, 2019, those will become worksheets. There'll be a worksheet called 2018 and a worksheet called 2019, and we'll put all this data in there. So the funny thing is we'll grab this, we'll iterate through it, but what's going to happen is we add more worksheets. We by default get a first worksheet, and so the easiest way to deal with that is just to delete it. So what we could do is put my notes in here. When you make a new workbook, you get a blank active sheet. We need to delete it since we do not want it. So we don't want it. And so we'll say wb.remove wb.active, and that's the active worksheet. So we'll save that. We'll make sure we don't break anything. Well, true, that should break something because now we have no worksheet. So when it tries to save it, it's probably going to error out. So that does make sense. Okay, so now we're going to go down here and we'll say, actually, I'll comment this out for the moment. We'll bring it back. Okay, back to this. Okay, so now what we do is we come down here and we say for year in JSON.data.keys. So what we're going to do is grab all those first keys, which should be the years, and just to prove it, we'll come down here and say print year. And boom, boom, boom. And let's see if that works. There we go, we got our years. Perfect. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a sheet. So I'll say sheet equals wb.create. wb.create sheet. And we'll set the title of the sheet to the year. Boom. And we retain that sheet because now that we have that sheet, we actually want to populate that sheet with the JSON information we've sent it. Let me back up. Okay, so we'll take this out. So now, if I run this, it should make 3 sheets with those years, but also still have the active sheet. So we'll run it real quick. Bring it over here, open it. And so now I should hopefully have 4 tabs. There's the active sheet we got by default, and then 18, 19, 20. Perfect. So now I'll come in here and I'll bring back that remove. And we'll run it again. And so now I should be down to 3 sheets. There we go, 18, 19, 20, exactly what I wanted to do. So now the next thing we do is as we grab these sheets, now we want to take that information, because we take that information and populate each sheet. So what I'm going to do is I will make a method here, and I'll call it populate sheet. And we'll take that JSON data and we'll pass in that year key. So we'll pass in the year key, which will give us the sub-object that we can then deal with. And we'll say, we'll also pass in the sheet because, well, we need to edit the sheet, right? So now we will start to make some commands here. And say, we'll say, define populate sheet. Okay, populate sheet. And JSON data and sheet. And so we'll come down here and we'll say sheet.cell. Now we're going to define some cells. So in this case, we're going to define the columns on the top, which will always be the same in every single sheet. So we can just do that really by hand. So we'll come down here and we'll say month, boom. And so what it's going to say is for row 1, column 1, make it month. And then we'll say 2, 3, 4. And we'll say food, heating, and rent. To kind of match what we have in our JSON here. We have the food, heating, the rent. So now we come down and now we have that. We'll say row equals 1. We'll say for month in JSON data dot keys. And we'll just do a quick test. We'll say print month. Print month. So now, hopefully, if this works at this stage, what we should have is we'll get this print of the month, and we'll have those 3 worksheets, and each worksheet will have the column headers. So let's try that. We didn't break it. Oh, there we go. We got to put a column there. There we go. So there's our output. Now let's copy it over and see if that got us that far. Cool. So there's 2018. Let me make it a little bigger here. Zoom, 200%. We can see month, food, heating, rent, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So that did exactly what I wanted so far. Now we need to actually populate the information. So next, now that we have that, we are going to say, what are we going to say? Row plus equals, no, let's say plus equals 1, because we're going to iterate that guy. And we'll say sheet.cell, row 1, and the month. So we're going to take and put that month in the first row, because we already have that data. And then we'll say sheet.cell, row 2. And now we want to pull the data out. So we have that JSON data, right, which is now a subset. So all we do is use the month key to pull that out. And then we have the food, right? So pull out the food. And that should work. And now if I do 3, 4, and rather than food, we do heating, and we do rent. So now that we've got that all together, yeah, that should do us just fine. Let's run that. So now we should have no output. Copy it over here. Boom. And there we go. So now we have our years, and let me make this bigger so you can see it. So there we have January, February, March. We got that data we actually pulled in. And in 2019, same thing. And we'll see that it's actually different data. It's the data that we put in there. So you can see for 2018, rent was $1,709. For 2019, it was $1,809. And for 2020, it is $1,909. So there we go. So now we've made our Excel file with multiple worksheets. Now, one thing we haven't done, and I'll probably do a video on this later, is we haven't done any formatting. This is just raw data. Like, we haven't done anything that causes this to be, I don't know, a $, which doesn't change the number information. That's still the same. It's just formatting on top of it, which I think I'll go over another video. But right now, we've got this going. So now what I want to do next is I want to take this file as is, as an Excel file, and convert it back into a JSON file, and then see if we can get the exact same JSON file and compare them. Okay, let me create this new file. We're going to take the Excel file and make it JSON. So I'll create JSON from XLSX multiple sheet. And again, I just like to get it basically working and then work off that. So user, then environment, Python 3, and then come down here and get our main. Then we'll come over here, change mod, user plus execute, create JSON, Cool, we got that far. Okay, now let's do some imports. Import openpyxl, import JSON, and we'll say from openpyxl import load workbook. Okay, so we got all that going. So then we'll come down here and we'll say workbook equals load workbook, and we'll say file name equals the name of our file that we use for our JSON, which is test.json.xls. Test.json.xlsx, boom, and then we'll say budget dictionary equals, that's what we're going to put all our JSON eventually in this dictionary file. And we'll say for WS NWB. So for the workbook, iterate through every single worksheet. And just to show you can do that, we can say print worksheet.title. And so that should print the names of each worksheet out, which should be the years. So if we try to run that, we're good. Fantastic. Okay, so now we come down here. And so what we want to do is for every single worksheet, we're going to get a bit of data to put, we want a bit of JSON to put in everything. So what we'll do is we'll come down here and say year dictionary. So from that year, we'll get all the budget. We'll say get sheet dictionary and worksheet. We'll pass the worksheet into it. And we'll say budget dict worksheet.title equals year year dict. There we go. Now this get sheet dictionary method, we just haven't made that yet. We're going to make that in a second. But that should return us all the JSON, a dictionary that's going to be equivalent to the JSON we need. So when we get that, we'll convert to JSON. We'll convert it to a JSON. We'll say data JSON equals JSON.dumps and budget dict. And then after that, we'll write the file, write JSON to file, and we'll say with open, and we'll say new.json, it's a new file. We'll write to it as f, and we'll say f.write data JSON. Simple as that. But now we'll come up here and we'll make this method. So we'll say define get sheet dictionary, and we'll pass in the worksheet. And just to make it simple right now, we will turn test. So hopefully that gives us something. So now if we run that, hopefully we have a new JSON file. And there it is. So I can say jq.newJSON file to see how it is. And there we go. We're just passing back tests just to prove that we can make something. So far, so good. But now let's actually try to pull that data out of there. So we can say year dict equals 1 and column headers equals 2. Let's see, return. Here's my notes. This returns a tuple. There's of type cell. Okay, so what we can do here is we can say first row. We want to get the first row. And there doesn't seem to be actually a row type that I can see in this library, but we can get we can say WS1, and that says, hey, go get the first row and return all the cells as a type of type cells. It's kind of like it's a tuple, but you can think of it like a list. So I have this essentially a list of cell objects. And let's see, I want to skip the first column. I want to skip the first column, right? Yes. Yes, because first of all, I want to go through the first row. So I'm looking at the first row. What I want to do is the JSON and your Excel file, if they start switching the rows around, it might not even out. So I want to make sure I'm speaking the same language. So I don't have to care about, since the JSON can be unordered, it's not going to be in the same order necessarily. I want to make sure that I'm covered in that case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create essentially a hash table, I guess, a dictionary of my cells. So I'll say cell first one. In this case, what I want to do is I want to, with that first row, I want to skip the first column, which is the month. I don't care about that. I don't need to keep that, but I want to keep all the rest of the rows. And so in this case, we'll print cell dot internal value. And let's see if I can get that going. Now if I run it, I should see, first row. How about I do that? Run that now. There we go. Food, heating, rent, food, heating, rent. So it's doing it every single worksheet. So that's working just fine. So what I want to do is I want to take that and create these column headers. Headers. And I will say cell.column, because the cell knows its own column. Wherever cell you get, it knows where he's located. So if I get the column, in this case it'll be like a 2, it'll know that 2 should equal the cell.internal value. I'm doing that so I can reuse that later when I'm down later on and I actually get a cell. I know he's in row 2, and row 2 means he's heating or heating food or whatever. So now we're actually going to go through all the rows. So for row in ws.iter rows. But I want to skip the first row. So I'll say minimum row equals 2. And in this case, it's the second row. Since we're talking Excel starts 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I do that, and just to show that's going on, I can say, so now that I've got that, so I can say month equals row 0 dot internal value. I want to actually get that month, right? Because I want to reuse that later on. So I can say print month, and that should print out the month. In fact, why do I need that? I don't know. Oh, no, I need it later on. There we go. So there's that month. And what I'm going to do is now I want to skip the month cell, which is the first one. So I'll say for cell in row, but I'll skip the first one and get whatever else is there. And I will say store the data in a dict with keys as column names. And I'll say column name equals column, we're using this headers that we used before, cell dot column. So what's happening here is the cell should know what column is in, column 2. We're using that to get the column headers that we stored before. So we can actually use this column name to populate things in the JSON file just fine. Then we'll say temp cell. Oh, we gotta have our temp cell. There we go. Temp cell dictionary, which we want to reset every single time. for every single row. Temp cell dictionary equals temp cell dictionary. And what we're going to set is the column name. There we go. Equals the cell dot internal value. Now that we've got that, now we can set the month key to be the contents of the row. And so we'll say year dict, and we'll say month equals temp cell dictionary. Is that right? And so we'll say we have the year dictionary, and we fill that without whatever the month is, and the month is, yeah, perfect. And then we return that whole thing. We say year dict, return that, and that should get us all our values. And hopefully, I think that's it. Boom. So now I have made the JSON file. So let me go test it, the new JSON file. And there we go. It looks like we pretty much have what we had before. But JSON doesn't have a specific ordering necessarily. We might, how do we see if they're identical? So what we can do, well, actually this won't work. If I do a cat new.json, we can see this is all bunched up together. If I do, look at the other one, test at the budget, we can see we purposely made this nice. So if I do something as simple as a diff, and I say diff budget.json and new.json, the files look completely different. There's a nice way to diff these using JQ. So I'll show you the slow way, and then I'll show you the one-line command way to do it. Now what I can do is I can say jq.budget.json, which makes it nicely formatted. I can also do that with new.json. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're ordered. They still could be different, like January could come first in one and the other one in February come first, possibly. So chances are it's okay, but just to cover to make sure it's correct, you do JQ-S, and now it's going to order every single thing. So I can do this into new ordered.json, JQ-S budget.json into budget ordered.json, and how about JQ? There we go. Now I can diff these. Diff budget. Oh, spelled it wrong. Bucket. Fine. And new ordered. And you can see they're identical. But there's an easy way to do this. You can do it all in one command line. So I can say diff, and this just helps me think about it. And I can do the sub command. So I can say jq-s dot new.json and jq-S and budget.json. And they diff just fine. And to show that that's working as intended, let me go open the new.json and tweak one little thing. I'll make this food $242. Save that and run it again, and we'll see, boom, I get that one line. So there you go. So there's how you can use openpyxl to make an Excel file with multiple worksheets from a JSON file, and also get it back again, and also make sure they're equivalent or not equivalent using the JQ tool. So hopefully this helps someone out there.
Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a like. To subscribe, just click the subscribe button. Also, you can follow me on Twitter under the handle @whiteboardcoder.com. View any code I may have thrown up as a gist at GitHub under the username PatmanDenver, or check out my blog site at whiteboardcoder.com.